What if I told you that the person you respect the most in this story, the one with the sharpest tongue, the coldest stare, the most unshakable confidence, is actually carrying the deepest wound of anyone in the cast? Daniel Park doesn't walk into a scene. He arrives. Every word out of his mouth sounds rehearsed. Every smirk feels like a brick laid into a wall that's been under construction for years. But here's the question almost nobody asks. Walls don't build themselves. Something or someone made Daniel Park need that wall in the first place. Today, we're not just watching Daniel Park. We're gonna take him apart piece by piece, trace his ego back to its very first crack, and find the scared kid still living underneath all that armor. By the end of this video, you won't just understand Daniel Park better, you might understand yourself a little better too, because chances are, you know a Daniel Park. You might even be one. Welcome back to AniPsyche, where we don't just watch anime, we understand it. Let's get into it. When we're first introduced to Daniel Park, he's already finished. He's confident, sharp-tongued, and never seems to need anyone's approval. He walks into rooms like he owns them. He has comebacks ready before people even finish their sentences. And honestly, at first, it's charming. It's fun to watch someone who seems so completely sure of themselves. But psychology has a name for this kind of presentation. It's called a compensatory persona. This is when someone constructs an outward identity specifically to cover for an inner wound they don't want anyone, including themselves, to see. Think about it this way. Confidence that comes from genuine self-worth is quiet. It doesn't need an audience. But confidence that comes from compensation is loud. It needs witnesses. It needs people to see it, acknowledge it, validate it. And if you watch closely, Daniel Park's ego only really activates when other people are watching. Alone, in quieter moments, that sharpness fades. The jokes stop. The posture changes. The eyes lose that performative edge. And that's our first clue that something doesn't add up. The Daniel Park we meet at the start of the story isn't a person, it's a performance. And performances exist for one reason. Because the performer believes the real thing underneath isn't enough on its own. This is important to sit with because it reframes everything that follows. Every time Daniel raises his voice, every time he one-ups someone, every time he refuses to back down, even when he's clearly wrong, we're not watching arrogance for arrogance's sake. We're watching a system built to keep one specific feeling locked away. The feeling of not being enough. So where did this performance come from? To answer that, we have to go back to a version of Daniel Park before the smirk, before the sharp words, before the armor was even built.
Pig barking like a dog.
Oink, oink.
Every ego is built in response to something. Nobody is born arrogant. Nobody is born needing to prove they're better than everyone in the room. That need is taught usually early, usually painfully, and often by the very people who were supposed to protect us. If we look at Daniel's backstory, we start to see the outline of a kid who learned that being edgy. If you establish dominance first, no one gets the opening to expose your weaknesses. Attack becomes defense. It's far easier to mock someone else's flaws loudly than to risk anyone noticing your own. Have you noticed? Daniel rarely lets anyone get too close. He'll banter. He'll team up. He'll even act loyal in his own way. But real vulnerability, real emotional honesty, that's the one thing his ego absolutely cannot afford. Vulnerability requires trust, and trust requires believing that if someone sees the real you, they won't walk away. Somewhere deep down, Daniel doesn't believe that. Not yet. For Daniel, winning isn't just winning, it's existential. Losing doesn't just mean losing a fight, an argument, or a competition. It means losing himself. This is why his reactions to failure are often disproportionate: sudden anger, denial, blame shifting, or wild overcorrection. When your entire sense of self is built on being the best, being anything less feels like a kind of annihilation. Daniel's wit isn't just charisma, it's deflection. Sarcasm lets him stay engaged with people without ever being sincere. It keeps everyone entertained, but at arm's length. As long as people are laughing, no one is asking the harder questions, like, are you actually okay? Or what are you really feeling right now? Put all of this together, and you get a character who looks powerful, but is actually one of the most fragile people in the story, because his entire identity is balanced on a foundation that one bad moment, one real failure, or one person seeing through him could shatter completely. Here's where it gets interesting, because no mask lasts forever. As the story progresses, we start to see moments where Daniel's armor slips, even if just for a second. Maybe it's a failure he can't laugh off this time. Maybe it's someone calling out his behavior directly, naming it out loud in a way he can't deflect with a joke. Maybe it's watching someone else be genuinely vulnerable and realizing just for a moment that vulnerability didn't destroy them. It actually made people care about them more. These moments matter because they represent the first real threat to Daniel's ego, and not a threat from an enemy, but a threat from reality itself. Reality that quietly suggests maybe the world isn't as harsh as the one he built his walls against. Maybe people can be trusted. Maybe being seen isn't the same as being destroyed. This is where Daniel's psychology becomes genuinely compelling, because now he has a choice. He can double down, retreat further into the persona, get louder, get colder, get more controlling, or he can do the much harder thing, let the mask crack a little, and risk what's underneath. Characters like Daniel rarely make this choice all at once. It's not one dramatic moment, it's a series of small ones. A pause before the usual comeback, a flicker of genuine concern that slips through before he can catch it. A moment of silence where, for once, he doesn't have a clever line ready because, for once, he's actually feeling something real and he doesn't know what to do with it. Here's why characters like Daniel Park resonate with audiences so strongly. Because most of us have a Daniel Park living somewhere inside us too, even if it's smaller, even if it's quieter. Maybe you've never been the loudest person in the room, but have you ever made a joke to avoid a serious conversation? Have you ever acted like you didn't care about something so no one could see how much it actually hurt? Have you ever achieved something and felt, for just a moment, like it finally proved you were enough, only for that feeling to fade within days, leaving you chasing the next thing? That's the same mechanism, different volume, same wiring. Daniel Park's ego isn't a flaw to be laughed at, it's a language. It's the language of someone who learned, very young, that being real wasn't safe. And every sarcastic line, every cold dismissal, every flex of superiority is really just an old, scared voice underneath, quietly saying, "Please don't see how much this matters to me. Please don't see how much I need this." When we understand that, Daniel Park stops being the arrogant character and becomes something far more human, a person doing the best he can with the tools he was given, even when those tools are slowly hurting him and everyone around. So, how did Daniel Park build his ego? Brick by brick, out of pain he never got to process, lessons he learned far too early, and a deep, quiet fear of never being enough. His confidence isn't a strength, it's a scar. And like all scars, it tells a story, if you're willing to look closely enough. The real question this story leaves us with isn't will Daniel Park win, it's will Daniel Park ever feel safe enough to put the mask down? And honestly, that's a question a lot of us are still answering for ourselves too. If this video helped you see Daniel Park, or maybe even yourself a little differently, that's exactly what AniPsyche is here for. We take the characters you love and break down the why behind everything they do, episode by episode, layer by layer. If you enjoyed this analysis, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss the next deep dive. There's a lot more characters, a lot more psychology, and a lot more aha moments coming your way. This has been AniPsyche. Until next time, keep asking why.